Life lessons from my family trip to Costa Rica on this episode of Major Money Matters. All right, welcome to Major Money Matters. Something a little bit different today. We're not talking economics or anything, or maybe we will, but I want to talk to you a little bit about my family's trip to Costa Rica and some observations that I had and 4 keen life lessons that I took away from that. We really took a vacation in the summer, which is really uncommon for me to do because that's when most people buy houses. So normally I don't take a vacation in the summertime. I usually take one in the spring or the fall with my family. But my son graduated from college. My oldest son graduated from college. And after much deliberation, probably much more deliberation than absolutely needed, we decided that we would take a family trip to Costa Rica for about 6 days. And it was an amazing opportunity to unplug and relax. Thank you so very much to my team who gave me the opportunity to do this and kept everything going and didn't let anybody fall out of escrow or anything and got some people to the closing table while I was on vacation. But I want to share with you some observations and things that I learned and relearned on our trip to Costa Rica based on some of our life experiences there. Number 1, never lose your wonder. This is great for me because I work a lot and there's a lot of hustle and bustle. And sometimes in the hustle and bustle of life, we don't stop to just pause and just give wonder. Wonder is defined as a feeling of excitement mingled with adoration. And this was great because I got a chance to unplug and just look at what God had done for my family. And it was great to go to a foreign country outside of the US and really not worry about a lot of the things that I grew up worrying about. I grew up extremely poor. And I won't say we were poor, we were more broke than we were poor. And when I was growing up in South Carolina, and when we would sit down at restaurants, when we went to Costa Rica, we read menus from the left to the right. And somebody might say, what's the difference? You always read from the left to the right. No, when you are poor or broke, you read from the right to the left. You see what the prices are first, and then you see what you can get for those prices. But it was great to just be in a position where God had blessed us so tremendously. And you start to just wonder about the blessings of God and how wonderful the life is that we get the opportunity to live. And it's not about me, it could be about you. It could be about what God has brought you through and what God has seen you through in some very tumultuous situations, even things that were not financial. When I first started off with my son, who's graduated from college, me and his biological mother went through a divorce, and I ended up being a single dad, raising this young kid who I had no idea about. I was 19, 20 years old, and I was divorced. Raising this young kid, I had some great people come along and help me along the way. I did not do this on my own. But my wife came along when he was about 3 years old and stepped in. And God had really blessed us tremendously with just where his life has gone and the things that he's accomplished and the way that he is, the way he's grown up as a young man. But you recapture your wonder about life and about just looking at your children and looking at their sometimes naivete, sometimes their whimsical nature about something when you don't get a chance just to settle down and ask them questions and talk with them while you're doing a lot of work. And maybe you lose your wonder about the beauty of your wife or the beauty of your spouse and how God's kept you together. And they still look good after me and my wife been together nearly 18 years. And she is still stunningly beautiful when I take a look at her. And maybe it's the wonder of the miracles God's brought you through. My mom, we almost lost her about 2 years ago. And then we took her with us to Costa Rica, and she's ziplining through 300 feet above the ground, and she's there ziplining and enjoying herself and enjoying life. Never, ever lose your wonder about what God has done for you and the places that he's brought you from, because if you lose that, then you lose a lot of life because you get wrapped up in many things that don't really matter. And you lose what God has really blessed you with. Never, ever lose your wonder for life. Number 2, okay, so there we are. We're going around and we're looking in this, we're in this national park, and there are these little squirrel monkeys, and they're the cutest little things, absolutely beautiful little things, and they're playing literally inches away from us. My son, I know my youngest son, it was like, I want to touch them, I want to touch them. I'm like, do not touch the monkeys, okay? And these are monkeys in the wild, and you're just walking through this park, and they're playing and wrestling, and it's great. It's absolutely amazing. And then, unbeknownst to us, one of the monkeys decided that they wanted to jump up into a tree and grab the honey from some bees. And all I could do was say to my family, run, as these bees immediately, we went from these monkeys, just watching these monkeys play, to bees swarming around us. And yes, we did get some stings, but we spent about an hour pulling the stingers out of us. And we were not, it was not a tumultuous situation or anything, but we had some pretty good stings in us. And what's the life lesson you take away from that? Your mom told you not to hang around idiots when you were a teenager, but you don't realize that you can be 43 and still hanging around idiots, and you're going to end up being collateral damage. Sometimes we end up in relationships where we're just collateral damage, and we were just there at the time, and we end up being a victim or collateral damage to someone else's bad decisions. We were there in a joyous, momentous moment, and it's like, oh, this is so cool, this is so cool. And a second later, bees are swarming around us. Don't hang around idiots purposefully, but also realize that sometimes you're just collateral damage to the life decisions that other people make. And you have to continuously monitor your environment. And I let my guard down, being the husband, being the man that's supposed to protect everybody. I'm normally the person that's looking around like, what's the worst that can happen in this situation? But I was so enamored by these squirrel monkeys that I lost sight of the fact that there was a stinking beehive that was 2 feet away. And we just have to run and get away from these bees. But the life lessons there is you have to remember not to hang around idiots, not to hang around stupid people, because although it looks fun and although it's eventful and you're having a great time, their decisions could mean you're going to be collateral damage in their bad decision making. Number 3, I tried to do this without talking about money, but I just found this so amazing as we were there and we saw these carpenter ants that were almost everywhere you went and you could observe them. And the Bible says in Proverbs 6:6, consider the ant, how it has no ruler, yet it works in the summer in order to prepare for the winter. These carpenter ants are absolutely amazing creatures, and I had to record them over and over again as I saw them because they would work so diligently. And I come to find out that there are many people, as I look at, we help people buy houses and we do pre-approvals and everything. I look at people's finances, many times 6 to 7 people's finances a day that I'm looking at and trying to figure out how to help them buy houses through various strategic means. And I ask the question a lot of times. We have clients that make a lot of money and don't save a lot of money. We have clients that don't make a lot of money and do save a lot of money. So we have to consider the ant. The ant stores up for the winter. And guess what? Winter is coming. I've been talking on my channel a lot about, hey, a recession is coming, a recession is coming. And people sometimes ask me, hey, when's this recession? Well, I don't know when a full US recession is coming, but I do know that sometimes in our personal lives we have recessions. People lose jobs. It happens. People transition. Life situations happen that might cause you to stop working a job. We can't just assume that the income that we have is always going to be there. So we must consider the ant. And we must store up for the times where we're not going to have a large income. Store up for the times where things are not going to be good as they are right now. We cannot spend everything that we make. We must store up for the times where it is not going to be as bountiful as it is right now. And even if, you go through those seasons, if you've taken the time and just consider the ant, watch the ant, how it has no ruler, yet it stores up in the summer for the winter. We have to save more money because I don't know when a national recession is coming, but even if a personal recession comes, you're in a position to succeed because you just considered the ways of the ant. Number 4, so there we were. So we were on a tour and we go through this area where you're walking on this nature path. And then you come to this area where it's this beautiful ocean, access to the Pacific Ocean. And I'm sitting there and I had to record this moment because my 2 younger sons who are 11 and 13, they go off and they're playing in the water with a bunch of other people around and everything. And it's a great experience. And then I look up and there's a sloth just seated in the tree above us in solitary and not moving much as sloths do, as their nature. And then there's me, my oldest son, my mom, and my wife. We're sitting there having a conversation. And I realize, or I recall, that just because you're in the same place doesn't mean that you're necessarily having the same experience. And I remind us of this as we sometimes get into these arguments with people about what life is like and, their life and your life. And if we just get to a place where we just understand that you can be in the same place, we both can live in the United States of America and have very different experiences about life. We both can grow up in the same household. We both can be in the same marriage, or we both can experience some different event, but we have very different experiences about those things. I often say that no two people have the same parents, which means that, my kids are 2 years apart. They are experiencing us as parents, me and their mother, as parents very differently. Because just because you're in the same place doesn't mean you're having the same experience. And we can cut down on our arguments a lot. We can cut down on having our ways dictated or trying to project our ways or what we saw or what we experienced onto other people if we just understand that I want you to share your experience with me, not necessarily that we have the same experience. This would cut out a lot of our political arguments if we just realize that we can be in the same place, we can experience the same event, but have very different perspectives or very different experiences about those. And in our conversation, if we could just figure out, how do I hear from your experience and how do you hear from my experience? And we can learn from those two things. Now, I will say thank you so very much to Kensington Tours. Now, if you haven't worked with Kensington Tours before, they're not sponsoring this. They're not paying me at all. Maybe they should. But if you book an experience with them or a vacation with them, you get a local tour, a local person from that experience. Our tour guide, Diego, he was absolutely phenomenal, absolutely patient, took us around, answered all of our questions. And it was a very wonderful experience because we had someone there who understood the local area, understood everything about the local area, from the government to the plants to the animals. So he did everything, and it was great. So thank you to Kensington Tours for making my family vacation absolutely amazing. And thank you for my family for being patient with me, because I work a lot and I put a lot into what I do and a lot into helping families. And I don't get to take a lot of vacations at all. But this was one where I tried to unplug and try to enjoy them. And I am totally in awe of you guys, my own personal family, for your goodness and your grace towards me, for God's goodness and grace towards me. I hope I'm as good as a father and husband, as a son, as you guys are to me. So hopefully you learned something from my life lessons to Costa Rica. It is a wonderful place to go. I do recommend you go. If you go, I recommend you book a tour guide of some sort just to go. We found that people around us were actually getting close to us so they can hear what our tour guide was saying and stuff like that. And he was with us every single day, driving us around and making sure we got to places on time. It was an absolutely beautiful experience. And those are my 4 life lessons from Costa Rica. God bless you guys. See you next time on Major Money Matters.